among the stipulated time frame. Welcome, please.
सर वहाँ से ऑन कर दीजिए, आगे 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 आगे।
Thank you very much, all respected dignitaries sitting on the dais and all audience from this very iconic college of Uttarakhand. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic is Viksit Bharat at the rate 2047. I am saying this Viksit Bharat at the rate 2047 has become a buzzword, not only among the academicians, intellectuals, but also among the politicians. As we saw, the recently held 18th Lok Sabha election has one of the major agenda to make the country developed by year 2047, and it was one of the topmost Modi ki guarantee of the ruling party, Bharatiya Janata Party. Friends, as we saw this Viksit Bharat at the 2047, it was called that it is the daydreaming of the ruling party. And same way, we also heard about the 2004 Shining India. That was one of the big slogans of that election, propounded by that at erstwhile ruling party NDA 1 under the leadership of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Already election has already over, the result has come, and today the third term Narendra Modi is going to take oath, not as the leader of Bharatiya Janata Party, but as the leader of NDA. The NDA has again arrived, and it will be, in reality, it will be called NDA 2 after Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Because the 2014 and 19 was the clear mandate of Bharatiya Janata Party, and that reign was named as the Modi government. Friends, we are here to discuss Viksit Bharat at the rate 2047, not as a political supporter, rather as an academician, as an economist. And we just try to search out, explore all the factors which are congenial to make this country really developed by next 24 years, by year 2047. And what are the impediments, what are the barricades, and what are the pros and cons of those of both pros and cons of this slogan, Viksit Bharat. Friends, as we know, just 2 years back we were celebrating the Amrit Kaal, and we were talking about the platinum jubilee of our independence, and we were talking about the India has just gotten the place of 5th largest economy of the world. It is the USA, followed by China, Japan, Germany, and then India. India has just surpassed the great European country like United Kingdom and France. But we all know, we all economists know, we all people know this is the largest populated country of the world. We have around 140 crore citizens. We have just surpassed China in terms of population. So if we have, at present we have a GDP of around 3.8 or 9 trillion dollar. So that is not enough to enhance the life standard and the per capita income of the all citizens of the country in a very substantial manner. We hardly have 3,000 US dollars the per capita income. And if we even become, hypothetically become a developed country of the world, and if we got the second or the first status of world, we can't have a very highest per capita income of country like West Europe or the America or even the Japan and China. Even China's scale of economy is just 3 or 4 fold greater than us, bigger than us. So the thing is that what area we have to work on. So first, I would like to say, first let us know about the status of our Indian economy. We all know we have a three part at the earlier speakers and economists told about the primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. We have service-led economy, we have around 55% GDP comes from the service sector, followed by industry 26 or 27 and the agriculture this is just 15%. Yesterday we heard a very comprehensive lecture on Indian agriculture by the keynote speaker and just now our chairperson Mr. Dilip Kumar was also telling about how to enhance Indian agriculture. But the thing is that around 3/5 population, you can say the 55 to 60% of the population directly or indirectly depend on agriculture. But they are merely contributing 15% of GDP to the economy. So it's a very easily we can think that how much dissimilarity, how much imbalances we have. If 55% of the population are contributing only 15% of the GDP, so we can easily understand how much low productivity, low income, and very low standard of living that is lying persisting in the Indian economy, Indian agriculture and rural India. The thing is that if we talk about the enhancing productivity of Indian agriculture, because we want to make India a real Viksit Bharat, so let us talk about all the grey area, all the lacunas and all the lapses which are persisting in our Indian economy. So I will talk first about Indian agriculture. So this disbalance and imbalance, how will we check? You talk about the high variety of seeds, fertilizer, the very newer technology of agriculture. It can't help the agriculture to become a very high productivity area. Because agriculture is the area where the capital output ratio is very high. And it has been scientifically proven. It has been proven by all economists of the world also. Because in US, which is the largest producer of the food grain, around 45 crore ton, here only 3% population are dependent on agriculture and they are not ready to make cultivation. Even about pumping in a huge amount of subsidy by American government because the agriculture has always a lower productivity and lower income. So people don't want to indulge themselves in agriculture. And same story is persisting in countries like Japan, Canada and Australia, where government is pouring in and pumping a huge amount of subsidy just for keeping their status in the world forum. कि अगर वो फूड एक्सपोर्ट अच्छा करेंगे तो उनकी जो है इंटरनेशनल एरेना में और ग्लोबल एरेना में उनकी हैसियत रहेगी. But this story is not applying with our country, India. We are a poor country. We do not have enough surplus resources. So we cannot spend. We can't spend huge amount of subsidy on agriculture. The subsidy which we spend on agriculture in terms of subsidized fertilizer, subsidized irrigation, subsidized seeds, in final terms, eventually it becomes a -2% negative subsidy. And because we have subsidized our agriculture, we have subsidized our agriculture inputs, but we have never thought about making agriculture as a profitable profession. And we have just make this agriculture ये एक पुश्तैनी पेशा रहेगा, ये एक निर्वाह पेशा रहेगा, a profession of survival only. And that is why we have just waived agriculture from all sorts of taxation. I think this is not a good idea. People who don't pay taxes, they are very poor people. And the people who pay taxes, in real terms, they are very high people. They have a very surplus amount of spending power, even after paying huge amount of taxes. So the thing is that if we want to make agriculture in a very balanced as one of the big sector of Indian economy, we have to make agriculture profitable. So as of now, we are thinking about we have to become a self-reliant in Indian agriculture and self-dependent on agriculture. We have to less dependent on imports of agriculture items, and we have to give priority to food security. But now, the era has come when the priority of agriculture has to be changed, because we saw the huge the very long strike by farmers. Near about 1.5 years, farmers were on strike, and the main agenda, the main demand was to just legalize the MSP. The basic thrust is to make the agriculture profitable. And farmers are not saying that the only FCI has to purchase our item. Anybody can come and purchase our all food items, all 36 food items, agriculture items, but they have to pay a reasonable amount of MSP rates. That should be inclusive of all input costs. But government was not ready. I was very amazed. But why the reform-centric government, reform supporter government didn't go for allowing legalization of MSP? Because it is a win-win situation. It will bring a win-win situation for all the stakeholders: government, farmers, consumers, and corporate. So talking about Indian economy, I would like to say first, there are three concerns. The first is the price rise and inflation. Second is the better remunerative prices to the producers. And third is the stability in the prices. So when we talk about MSP, the minimum support price, which is a provision for the producer, just creating a hedging for all sorts of falling trend of prices during the agriculture season area, when we have a very supply market in the agriculture market, because it is seasonal affair. Agriculture is a seasonal affair. In Rabi and Kharif season, we have oversupply, so the prices have a falling tendency. But if MSP is in the operation, not only by the FCI, but all the corporate players, all the purchase party, then we do not have a falling tendency in the prices. And farmers will always give incentive to grow more and more. You talk about any item, you talk about wheat, we talk about any spices, vegetables, fruits, food grain item. If you provide a remunerative MSP to the farmers, they will have a always enthusiastic tendency for the agriculture, and we never have a supply short market, we never have a high price. If we pay better MSP, you just be sure there will be no price hike in the future. I am telling you. Most of the analysts who don't have a maturity of experience and knowledge, they talk about if you provide MSP, there will be higher price. That's a total false and bogus perception and perspective of this agriculture market. Until and unless we provide better remunerative prices to the producers, we never have a supply management in the agriculture market. And second is the problem of money inflation. The money inflation is there because the MSP is not in the full operation first, and second, MRP is also not in the full operation. Maximum retail price. Maximum retail price for what? We have to just keep the price under check. We don't charge extra charges for anything else. If we go to the deep mountain area, you will find you being charged a very extra 10, 20 or 30 rupees on every item because there is a supply shortage. There is no availability of in a very substantial manner. That is why the seller is charging very high. Second thing I would like to mention when I talk about Viksit Bharat. When we talk about Viksit Bharat, we see that there is a huge problem of unemployment in our country. And we just recently saw how the unemployment issue was exploited by the opposition. And the ruling party was never talking about unemployment. They were so arrogant. They even don't think it is better at least talk about unemployment and just try to assure people that whenever we will come in the power, we will try to do something extra for the problem of unemployment. And all the unemployed youth army which is in the country. So I would like to mention about the employment policy. And when we talk about employment policy, we have to first find out we have three category of unemployed people. First is the non-educated, manual and casual unemployed people. Second is the semi-educated, technically or skilled person, and mostly they are the artisans. They have a very high unemployed number. And third is the full educated and full skilled people who are in the unemployed zone. So these are the three categories. And there are the three areas of employment generation also. just you provide employment for the all white collar, whether in the public sector or in the private sector, whether in the organized sector or in the any corporate sector. So first you provide jobs for those category of employment seeker people, and second is the semi-skilled and the semi-educated people, and third is the uneducated and casual and manual sort of laborers also. Talking about the organized and unorganized, we all know that we have a share of 90% and the 10%. 90% are the unorganized workforce and 10% are the organized workforce. We know that all organized workforce, their salary wages is linked with the consumer index, price index. But unorganized workforce, even after lots of endeavor and effort, even made by Modi government, we can't say in a very emphatic manner that all organized workforce has become totally exploitation free. No, they are not free. Talking about the employment provision made by the government, they have only two visions. They don't talk about the all pakka sort of employment which is being recruited in all government sectors, whether done by central government or state government or any local self-government. But when we talk about the self-employment, even the Narendra Modi government, he highlighted two things in a very drastic manner. They talked about the startup. They very much they gave emphasis on startup, and really it was a very foresight initiative. And we have to think about self-employment. We have to create entrepreneurs. We have to create a group of entrepreneurs like the USA. But India is such a vast country. All states are not industry friendly. All people are not self-employment kind of attitude they have. Only few states and few sectors of society, they have a self-employment tendency. You talk about the states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, or in some technical zone of South India, and even some caste of the community, they have a tendency of doing self-employment, and they just carry out their all the heritage profession. Otherwise, 90% of the people, they are clearly the job seeker. They don't have the capacity and the talent of doing a self-entrepreneurship. So we did some good work in the field of a startup, and we have 80,000 startups. We are third or fourth largest ecosystem in the startup business. And talking about the self-employment for the all petty kind of shopkeepers like semi-skilled or non-skilled or non-educated people, then they have the Mudra loan scheme. And government is claiming that they distributed around 45 lakh crore loan to the 23 crore people who came under the Mudra loan scheme. So these were the two areas. Otherwise, to talk about the all organized job. And when we talk about organized job, we have around 3 crore jobs in both central government, state government and local self-government. But in last 10 or 15 or 20 years, the scale of recruitment has gotten down, has got diminished. Why? Because the employment policy is not similar. The Pakka employment scheme provided by government, which is generally recruited by Union Public Service Commission, Staff Selection Commission, or all State Public Service Commission, and all kind of our Seva Chayan Parishad, or all public sector undertaking like that, and all railway recruitment boards. So their policy is to provide Pakka job to all their employees with all working conditions and all kind of working amenities, along with the good pension scheme also. I think the most government, whether
मनोज जी बाइंड अप कीजिए 2 मिनट में.
लाइट नहीं है, थोड़ा 5 मिनट लीजिए.
लाइन नहीं.
So I was talking about employment generation. So most of the government, whether belong to any political party, you talk about any UP or NDA, fundamentally they are not eager to provide Pakka job to their non-employed educated youth army. By heart they are not ready to provide job. और अगर आप जॉब देना भी चाहेंगे तो कितना देंगे? हर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की रिक्तियां निकालेंगे, और जो जॉब निकलेगा उसमें भी वो प्रयास करेंगे कि हमारी पार्टी के लोगों को मिल जाए, हमारे सपोर्टर को मिल जाए, हमारे कास्ट के लोगों को मिल जाए. तो ये यूनिफॉर्म नेशनल पॉलिसी नहीं है। तो मेरा सजेशन होगा एज एन इकोनॉमिस्ट और एज ए पब्लिक थिंकर कि गवर्नमेंट मस्ट स्क्रैप ऑल द पक्का जॉब स्कीम, और जितने उनके ब्यूरोक्रेट हैं जो ऑलरेडी सरकार के पेरोल में है, उनको भी रातों रात आप जो है ऑर्डिनेंस निकालिए और कहिए कि सबका जॉब अब जो है कैजुअल होगा, लाइक अमेरिका। कि अमेरिका में जैसे पॉलिटिकल पार्टी बदलती है, उनके अंदर के सारे ब्यूरोक्रेट भी कैजुअल होते हैं और वो टेकन फॉर ग्रांटेड नहीं है। तो जितने हमारे जो वर्क फोर्स है उनको आप कैजुअल लाइए विद गुड वर्किंग करिए, विद गुड पे। इसमें आप नीति आयोग में जाए तो वहाँ 3 लाख सैलरी मिलती है, पक्के जॉब वालों को मिलती ही नहीं है उतनी। तो अगर उनको आप कर दें और फिर जितनी अनएम्प्लॉयड यूथ आर्मी है, मान लीजिए कि 2 करोड़ है या 2.5 करोड़ है, तो आई एम टेलिंग यू इन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट 12 लाख पोस्ट आर वैकेंट। आई एम टेलिंग यू इन ऑल enterprises of central government, whether you talk about railways, you talk about defense or any sector of central government, 12 lakh posts are vacant. And second, you talk about the state government, 60 to 70 lakh posts are vacant. They have not been recruited because they have a confusion whether to choose the पक्का government job policy or the casual job policy. यहाँ पर सारे टीचर कम्युनिटी बैठे हुए हैं, सबके कॉलेज में आधे वर्कफोर्स पक्के नौकरी वाले हैं, आधे जो है कैजुअल है और वो जो है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पर है। और वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पर जब पक्का हो जाएंगे तो एकदम मस्ती में आ जाएंगे, वो कभी नहीं सोचेंगे उनके बारे में। जो कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल जॉब वाले हैं वो दुनिया भर की नेतागिरी करेंगे, कहेंगे हम शोषित हैं, हमारे साथ काम उतना ही हो रहा है लेकिन दाम उतना नहीं मिल रहा है। तो हमारी सोसाइटी जो है स्वार्थी सोसाइटी है, कभी वो नेशन एट लार्ज करके नहीं सोचते, वो अपने सेक्टर को लेकर सोचते हैं। जैसे कि नाउअडेज पीपल आर एजुकेटिंग फॉर द ओल्ड पेंशन स्कीम, और अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी ने 2004 में एक रेवोल्यूशनरी स्टेप लाया था कि ओल्ड पेंशन स्कीम हटेगी क्योंकि ये ह्यूज बर्डन है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट पे। लेकिन कांग्रेस पार्टी ने जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स, द पार्टी हु टॉक्स मोर अबाउट टू दे जस्ट ब्रिंग आउट दिस ओल्ड पेंशन स्कीम just in a political vendetta manner, and some state government went for the OPS, जबकि स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का फाइनेंस इतना खराब है लेकिन वो अपने सरकारी कर्मचारियों को मालामाल और उनके बुढ़ापे तक उनको खुशगवार रखना चाहते हैं। 90% पीपुल बदहाली में जिए, उनकी चिंता उन्हें नहीं। 400 करोड़ देश के 80% लोगों को पेंशन नहीं मिलता और वो भी 6-6 महीना पर मिलता है। लास्ट पॉइंट विच आई वांट टू रिप्रेजेंट बिफोर यू, दैट इज द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ इनइक्वालिटी, असमानता। जो कि सब लोग कह रहे हैं कि भारत कम्युनिस्ट हो रहे हैं, दिन गा रहे हैं, लेकिन इतनी इक्वालिटी दुनिया में कहीं नहीं। Many economists are also coming and they are coming with all their proposition or representation that what should be done. Most of the lecture which I have heard, they have just go through some economic research and economic some data and etc. I am just telling you 5 area government has to pick if they want to stop inequality today onwards. बिकॉज अर्लियर जितने पुश्तैनी घर वाले हैं, जितने बड़े बड़े घरों में पैदा हुए हैं, उनके धन को हम नहीं छीन सकते बिकॉज प्रॉपर्टी इज ए फंडामेंटल राइट। अगर हार्डकोर लेफ्ट गवर्नमेंट भी आ जाए तो सबको बराबर नहीं कर पाएगी, उसको प्रकृति ही असमान करती है, गवर्नमेंट और सिस्टम भी असमान करता है। लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि कुछ चीजें ऐसी हैं जिन्हें आप टेकअप करें तो टुडे ऑनवर्ड, आज के बाद से कम से कम देश में इतनी गैर बराबरी नहीं आएगी।
चलिए मनोज जी वाइंड अप कीजिए, और लोग बोलने वाले हैं।
हाँ थोड़ा सा तो
ये क्या होता है यार?
5 एरिया जो है, 5 एरिया है, मैं बता रहा हूँ, वाइंड अप भी कर रहा हूँ, कंक्लूडिंग पॉइंट है पर 2 मिनट में कि 5 एरिया क्या क्या है। तो फर्स्ट इज एजुकेशन, सेकंड इज द हेल्थ, थर्ड इज द लेबर पॉलिसी, फोर्थ इज द एम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड फिफ्थ इज द सोशल सिक्योरिटी। ये पांचों में इतना डिफरेंशियल ट्रीटमेंट होता है, इतने डिफरेंशियल पॉलिसी सेटअप है, इतने डिस्क्रिमिनेटिंग पॉलिसी रिजीम है कि जस्ट न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई, लेकिन न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी ने देश में स्टेटस नहीं दिया कि देश का एजुकेशन स्टेटस क्या है। ह्यूज प्रेजेंस ऑफ प्राइवेट सेक्टर है, गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर है, छोटे जो है गाँव में और नगर पालिका में एजुकेशन का अलग है। तो अगर हम यूनिफॉर्म एक एजुकेशन पूरे देश में एक सेटअप के साथ मैंडेटरी फॉर ऑल, कंपल्सरी फॉर ऑल, विद वन साउंड ऑफ सिलेबस, वन साउंड ऑफ एग्जामिनेशन एंड वन साउंड ऑफ ऑल, कि 10वीं पास करके कुछ ट्रेड में बैठ करके लेबर बनने जाते हैं और कुछ बड़े पढ़ाई करके अमेरिका में जाते हैं और जो उसके बीच वाले वो बेंगलोर और बॉम्बे जाते हैं, और कुछ और छोटे वाले हैं वो लोकल में लीडरशिप करते हैं या फिर वहाँ पर ठेकेदारी करते हैं। ये 4 तरह की दुनिया हमारे एजुकेशन सिस्टम है। सेम वे इन हेल्थ ऑल्सो, हेल्थ में भी अलग अलग तरीके की दुनिया है क्योंकि एक पॉलिसी नहीं है। और जब एजुकेशन और हेल्थ में प्राइवेट प्लेयर है तो वहाँ पर 3 टायर रेगुलेटर लाने की जरूरत है। लेबर पॉलिसी मैंने अभी बताया कि ऑर्गेनाइज्ड और अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड की 2 बड़ी दुनिया है। उस दुनिया को बांटना है तो एक लेबर पॉलिसी पूरे देश में हर वर्कफोर्स के लिए लानी होगी। एम्प्लॉयमेंट जो मैंने बताया कि सरकार एम्प्लॉयमेंट नहीं देना चाहती क्योंकि कुछ को पक्की नौकरी देना चाहती है, ज्यादातर को कैजुअल देना चाहती है और अपने लोगों को अपने रसूख पर देना चाहती है। इस वजह से एम्प्लॉयमेंट फुल स्केल पर 80 लाख एम्प्लॉयमेंट केवल गवर्नमेंट में जो मिल जाता। और 5वां है सोशल सिक्योरिटी। एक तरफ 1 लाख लोग पेंशन पाते हैं और एक तरफ 400 लोगों को पेंशन नहीं मिलता है। यही these all 5 points are the main factor which is creating a huge amount of inequality in this country, and the gap between haves and have-nots is increasing day by day. It is becoming deep and deep, and if you want to check inequality, we need a drastic change in our policy regime. और 2047 तक यदि हमें काम करना है तो हमें आत्ममुग्ध नहीं बनना होगा, हमें अपना झूठा गौरवगान नहीं करना होगा। गाँव में और शहरों में गवर्नेंस का जो पूरा काला नजारा है वह देखना होगा और फिर उसको दूर करने का निरंतर और सतत प्रयास करना होगा। वो माइंडसेट जो जापान ने अपनाया, जर्मनी ने अपनाया या अमेरिका के एंटरप्रेन्योर्स ने अपनाया, वही देश को करना होगा। हमें आत्ममुग्ध, आत्मसलाह से दूर रह करके रोज सेल्फ क्रिटिक बनना पड़ेगा और रोज कमियों को ढूंढ करके गवर्नेंस को बेटर करना होगा। और सबसे बड़ी समस्या करप्शन है, बैड गवर्नेंस है, मैल गवर्नेंस है। तभी हम 2047 तक विकसित भारत बन पाएंगे, नहीं तो आगे फिसलने के लिए आजाद है। लाखों मौके आएंगे और ये फिसलते रहेंगे। Thैंक यू वेरी मच।
धन्यवाद।